Welcome to Brainstorm 9000.
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome
to Brainstorm 9000.
You just heard a maimed voice by a person who we lovingly call Master McMaster, Jane McMaster. Maimed.
Maimed, like missing a limb? Like injured?
Like injured voice of Master McMaster. Jane McMaster is a philosopher, master's degree. That's why she's the master of all the McMasters.
Yes.
She also rules the brains of the internet, apparently. That's why she tried to speak as if she's a robot. You know, Sophia, the actual robot, actually speaks probably like a human. I don't know. And my name is Dr. Schultz. I'm a psychiatrist. They're all crazy, you know. But today we are going to talk about something very real.
Yes. Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation, TMS.
Yeah, they are also TMZ. It has to do with music. So transcranial means the following. It means that whatever device is emitting the magnetic field, it penetrates the skull. So cranium in Latin is skull. It immediately tells you, after my brief, in-depth explanation, no pun intended here, right, because it goes deep, that they basically don't touch you.
Right. It's non-invasive.
So, non-invasive, which is, for some reason, a huge selling point. I understand. I mean, who wants to have electrodes installed into your brain?
No, I don't want that.
Well, Neuralink probably will do it.
No, I don't want anyone to like saw my skull open or touch my brain. No, just leave it alone.
Seriously?
It alone.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Amazing. You're very special, Master McMaster. Yeah. So seriously, it's non-invasive, and it's basically a child of ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, where also they just place very few electrodes on your head and some on the rest of your body, and then just send an electric current. And if anybody, and I suspect nobody in our audience has ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, have you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're one of the very few.
It's so
very
sad.
Yeah, very old movie. It severely misrepresents ECT because what you actually see is this. You come to the hospital usually in pre-op. They put an IV in you, and then you go to sleep. In 5 minutes, you wake up, and that's all you know. And somebody like me who had to be trained in it during my residency training would see that just toes on one foot only move.
But that's ECT, right?
ECT,
not
right.
TMS.
So it has a very bad rep because they overused it. That Master McMaster will tell us all about it when she talks about history of TMS, right?
Yeah.
Please tell us, what is the history here?
Well, so in like the 1700s and 1800s, people came up with all the electro currents and magnetic fields and all of that important shit. See, I'm pretty much a scientist and I'm an expert in these things, which is why I use this sophisticated jargon.
Right.
So in the late 1800s, they started working with like using electricity to stimulate the human brain directly. And then by the 1930s, ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, was invented by Italian physicians.
Do they have names?
Yes, it is Ugo Cerletti and Lucio Bini.
Probably Lucio, right?
And let me try it again. Ugo Cerletti and Lucio Bini.
You sound so Italian.
I mean, I drink wine, so I'm basically Italian.
Good.
So after it was invented, it became widely used to treat mental illnesses. And like you said, Dr. Schultz, it was ultimately like way overused, and it became kind of like a cure-all.
Yeah, panacea. They thought that it can help with every single mental illness there is.
Right, yeah. Depression, electroconvulsive therapy. Anxiety, electroconvulsive therapy. Schizophrenia, sure, electroconvulsive therapy.
Anything you want, essentially.
Yeah, anything.
Yes, and I can tell you that it's not like since 1970s ECT has not been in use. It has been, because it's still very efficient. Some people claim that it has 90% efficacy rate for mood disorders, both unipolar depression and bipolar disorder. In some countries, I hear, and I can't swear by it, and I'm not saying that this is accurate, but a few people told me that in some countries, ECT is actually a treatment of first choice, meaning the first treatment option that is frequently offered to people for severe depression.
Right. So there was like a
Right.
huge backlash in the 70s because
Yeah.
it was like way overused.
But it's still used.
It's
Yeah.
still used.
Right.
But then around the time that there was this big backlash,
Anthony T. Barker
was exploring the use of magnetic fields to alter electrical signaling within the brain and created the first TMS devices.
I have to say that while we should absolutely credit this doctor with the initiating the use, it was used in the 80s, in the 90s, and in the early 2000s, initially just for research of nerve conduction, and then eventually people started utilizing it in experiments. Only then an attempt to treat mood disorders and other emotional issues in humans was approved for pilot studies.
Yeah, and it wasn't approved by the FDA until 2008.
Yes, for treatment of depression. So the on-label, so to speak, use, because we have on-label and off-label in medicine, meaning, for example, some medications like, let's say, Depakote initially was approved for treatment of seizure disorders, but then people started using it off-label to treat mania, and then now it's on-label, right? So off-label, on-label, it's not illegal. It's just FDA now recommends to use TMS since 2008 for treatment of major depressive disorder,
Right.
which is resistant, refractory to at least, some people say one, it depends on what insurance you talk to.
Right.
Some people, at least 2 trials of regular antidepressants.
Huh.
I would like to throw at you, with the help of our fluently Italian-speaking Master McMaster, a couple of names.
Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio is good, but can you say Luigi Galvani?
Luigi Galvani.
Okay, so Luigi Galvani actually is the guy who basically worked with electricity a lot in 1700s. And then a non-Italian name, Michael Faraday.
No.
Can you say it without an accent?
Michael Faraday.
Yeah. Who discovered that the electric current basically corresponds or creates magnetic fields. So, I'm pretty sure Tesla did it all. Have you seen a movie about Tesla?
There's a movie?
Oh, yeah. It's called Tesla.
Seriously?
I think
Is
so.
it about Elon Musk?
No. It's about Tesla, a person. Tesla actually was a person.
Yes, Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
no, I have not seen the movie.
yeah, and there have been accidental events when a person would get struck by lightning and wouldn't die, actually. It happens sometimes. So people notice that people who survive this, they kind of change. So the idea to use the electric current for treatment of different kinds of things has been around for a long time. I can tell you, for those of you who don't know and didn't pick up on my Russian accent, okay, I'm trying to make it very obvious. This is the table, by the way, that we are sitting at.
Ah.
Got it? I'm from Moscow originally. So even when I was a child, if you had sinus problems or problems with your ears, you would go for physical therapy, which actually was with the physics. Like they would treat you with different wavelength of electric currency.
Is that kind of like
current, not currency. Of course.
No, I went to a chiropractor a few months ago for
Right.
my back, and the actual alignment, I don't know. But then they
Right.
gave me a wonderful massage, and they put this blanket on me that had like little electric currents going in different
I
spots.
don't know what they were doing, but this is different. So it used to be extremely popular. We forgot to mention, of course, and I cannot speak with a German accent, her Mesmer. So Mesmer used to mesmerize people, and mesmerization was not just hypnosis. By the way, we are going to talk about hypnosis very, very soon.
Stay tuned.
Yes, at least for this episode. But one of the things that he used to initiate people's attention, at least, they would touch metal rods that were carrying certain electric current, and they would feel the impact, right? Mm-hmm. So people were constantly saying that we are like an electric machine,
Right.
right? And then it turned out that, yes, our neurons do produce a slight electric current when they talk to each other, allegedly.
Yeah. So because our neurons produce electric currents when they talk to each other,
Right.
then can you explain how TMS is supposed to
Right.
help?
So I'll start from kind of like a funny story, but it's real life. I received my training at the Beth Israel Medical Center in New York. I was a chief resident there. I had to put it in, of course. And we had an amazing chief of inpatient services. And when I asked this person, how does the CT work? The answer was, Ed, the best I can explain is that it shakes the brain all around and it gets better. And then the person
Jesus.
laughed. So it's an God's honest answer, because the exact mechanism we don't know, but there are hypotheses and theories of how it works.
Okay.
So for TMS, the idea is this. It's been noticed that in a large number of people, fact one, who are depressed, left prefrontal cortex is less active. They've conducted numerous studies when they can light up the brain, just showing what areas are supplied with blood more actively. And if you look at the brain of a person who is happy-go-lucky, it's lit up. It has different colors. Colors are just a way to code for different things in the brain. And when you look at somebody's brain when they're depressed, it's kind of dark. It's not dark inside. There is no light inside of the brain, okay? Light bulb doesn't go on inside of the brain.
Right, you're talking about colors corresponding
to certain levels of blood supply. And it looks dark. So in many people who are depressed, not in everybody, the left prefrontal cortex is kind of like shut down. Another important observation is that our limbic system, and you can guys just look it up on the internet, it's the older part of our brain, it's kind of like in the middle and inside, is responsible together with everything else for our emotions. And also in people who have mood disorders, let's say depression, it's not also as active as it should be. These are all the theories. So the theory is that repeated electromagnetic impulses applied to the prefrontal cortex on the left side of the brain stimulate the neurons that otherwise are not as active, and they in turn start feeding this information to the limbic system.
Right.
And that's how TMS works. This is one of the theories that is propagated very actively. If you read anything about TMS or decide to read, you'll come across this theory.
So that theory is kind of like jump-starting a car or something.
Right, which is not very different from what a prominent psychiatrist told me at Beth Israel, right? You shake it all around, right? So, of course, if you keep reading and listening to different people, you'll immediately hear our favorite words: dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA-aminobutyric acid, there is a new thing now, and, many, many different things. So these theories are good because, yes, TMS works when the electrode is over the left prefrontal area.
Okay.
And
for depression.
Yeah, well, no, any treatment right now with TMS. So I showed Master McMaster a picture, and I can't promise you that we'll be able to show you the picture on the website because we probably have to buy it. We don't have our own equipment yet, but we are actively going through the process of purchasing it. There are many different TMS machines right now, but many years ago when it just started, it was one major company. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to promote them. They don't pay me for that, and why would I do it? But seriously though, I mean, one is not better than the other, although they say they are. So you come into the room, which kind of looks like a dental office. There is usually a huge, very comfortable, futuristic looking, let's call it armchair, right? Like a dental office chair.
Yeah.
And there is, of course, a super duper modern, medically looking, beautiful white and color or white and blue in color large computer screen, and an electrode that is also futuristically looking that hovers over the left side of your head. And then you sit in the chair. And then a doctor, together with a technician who is going to do the procedure, at the first appointment, needs to find what is called the motor strip. So the motor strip is in the middle of the brain. I really recommend, I'm asking you to Google it, because you'll see that there is a homunculus, meaning kind of like a caricature of a human being is projected there with overrepresented ears, lips, hands.
Yeah, with like they're in different proportions
Right.
based on how many
Right.
neurons and nerve endings you have for those areas.
Probably. I'm not sure what it represents, but certainly the brain doesn't look like that. It's just, so you need to find a particular area, and the only thing that the person knows now, they'll tell you that they feel something slightly going on, like an electric current through their arm or through their fingers, and this is good enough. It's done by an expert physician and an expert technician who are very well trained for hours and are certified.
Hours?
Yeah, of course. And then basically, if it's an old machine, you would have to have it done for 37 minutes. And what you do, you sit in the chair, and depending on how the office is designed, you either listen to the music or watch something on a TV screen. They can offer you both choices to make, or you just sit there. Meditating or not meditating is not going to make any difference. You are just silent. You don't talk. And that's basically it. That's all you know. So the modern machine does it in 19 minutes only, sends thousands and thousands of electromagnetic impulsi, right? Or impulses.
Impulses.
Impulses. Just kidding. And then you're done. So they tell you that you can do it during your lunchtime, but I've got news for you. Most of the offices have one machine only. But you can come to the office for about 20 minutes, right? Maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, so one of the things for ECT that has been talked about is that some of the immediate side effects that you would experience would be like maybe some confusion,
Right.
some memory loss. So are there any kind of side effects
No.
for TMS?
The most common, that doesn't happen in everybody, is, as they say, a slight headache. So after the first one or two or maybe a couple of applications, some people develop headaches that go away either by themselves, or if you are impatient, you can take a Tylenol or whatever painkiller. I'm not prescribing here anything to anybody, just to make sure. The difference actually is significantly more profound. So I have to tell you that I don't know, and I'm not saying it in either direction. What is more effective, ECT or TMS? I don't have the data in front of me, probably because I never looked, or maybe they're not available. I don't know. So, 2, ECT can be done outpatient, but still you are going to be under. They're going to put an IV and sedate you for a very short period of time. So when
Not in the movies.
Right. So you, not in the movies, because the movies have to show you the suffering. But they do sedate you. It's never done on a person who is totally awake. You go under and then you wake up. That's all you know. And there is an anesthesiologist present there, because they do give you general anesthesia, meaning you go to sleep for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then you wake up. You need to spend the time getting over it, right? And then you might need to be driven by somebody back home. So it's a major procedure. And you don't do it every day. TMS is done at the office. You come in, you don't get undressed, nothing happens to you, right? In about 20 minutes, you are free to go home. You feel absolutely no change in your cognition, meaning you know what's going on. You are not confused, right? Nothing bad happens to you. You don't need to be driven back home by anybody. You just walk out and you can drive to the office and drive away from the office. Nothing is going to happen.
Okay. So what would that be like then as a cognitive experience? You just feel totally normal?
Yeah, you just stay there and read or watch a movie. Nothing happens to you. The machine just gives repeated impulses without you feeling it. And that's the attractive part of it. Before this super modern technology, when the electrode is not even touching, the 37-minute procedure, they would have to provide a full contact with the electrode, which is a flat thing the size probably of my palm without fingers, right? It would touch your head, and there would be a special application, like a piece of gauze, but thicker, that you have to put, and then the rest of the experience is the same. So still, but now it doesn't even touch. There is no gel, there is nothing there. You just sit there. And the way it's done is this, and I don't know how attractive it is for your generation. You have to come Monday through Friday, meaning 5 days a week, for about 6 weeks. The total number of procedures is 30, and then they provide additional, either 4 or 6, depends on the protocol, to kind of wean you off, meaning not to do it every day, to do it every few days, and then you're done. So after about 34 to 36 procedures, you are done totally.
Oh, wow. So when you are first getting it done, it has to be every day?
It has to be every day, not on Saturday and Sunday. And there have to be certain conditions followed. Like, for example, drinking is out and using drugs, as some people like to say, recreationally is out. So if you plan on keeping, having a glass of wine at night, or going out on Fridays and getting drunk out of your mind, or I'm not talking to you, Master McMaster, just a general question.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. And using sleeping meds, it's not a good idea because they change the brain enormously. So what's the point of trying to treat it when you are constantly bringing it down and consuming psychoactive substances? Alcohol makes people depressed. I mean, we spoke about it not that long time ago.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense because what TMS is trying to do, as far as I understand it, is it's trying to alter your, like, the way that your neurons talk to each other in such a way that you can feel better. So it's like a healing treatment.
Yes, it's a healing treatment regardless of what the actual mechanism is, and I'm really hoping we'll find it out ASAP.
Right, but yeah, assuming that it has something to do with
the neurons.
With neurons.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that drugs and alcohol just fuck with your neurons and kill brain cells. So.
Well, cocaine probably kills everything else. But my point is that you have to be prepared to be a perfect person, like a nun, right? Or what is the male version of a nun? How do you call them?
Priest?
No, the person who is in the monastery. A monk.
Monk.
Yeah. So it's a monk-like or nun-like existence. Of course, sex is permitted at any time because it's good for your brain. I'm not even kidding. But seriously, so going back, it's a pretty strict schedule. It has to be done daily. And you cannot take Saturday and Sunday off for recreational activities that have anything to do with any substances. Normally, they do not discontinue your medications. If you are on psychotropic medications, they don't stop them. Except for at least one very prominent one, Wellbutrin, bupropion, because it decreases the seizure threshold. So sounds very fancy, but it's very simple. Threshold, you know what threshold is,
Threshold.
Right? Yes. Like when you walk over something, like a barrier, right? So if Master McMaster and I have a particular, say, threshold, let's say set at 50, I'm just making it up. So if you start drinking, it's going to be at 10. Much easier for you to get a seizure, although you've never had them before, right? Also, people have a tendency when they drink, especially a lot, to get dehydrated. Dehydration also decreases the threshold for seizures. So that could be at the discretion of your doctor. I'm not prescribing anything here.
Right. Well, so this monk life existence that you've painted, I can see how it would probably sound pretty intimidating and pretty terrible to a lot of people.
Yes.
Because they're I don't want to disrupt my whole life in order to do this treatment. And some people might, who, if they're really struggling with a mental health issue, they might be leaning on substances to make them feel better.
Not a very wise decision, because the next day...
Not a very wise decision, but still getting people to then give that up for a whole month. For some people, that's asking a lot. But the reason why this really makes sense to me I mean, obviously, it's good for your health, whatever. But if you're at the point where you're trying TMS, it's because you have like treatment resistant depression, right?
Yes.
Something serious. So
Well-
you've tried other things.
Yes.
It's not working.
Right. I can tell you that at least in my practice and the practice of anybody I respect, of any doctor, if somebody is actively using, I'm not even going to begin to work with them because it means that they're not interested to get better. So active users of anything, meaning a person who does something daily, like smokes a blunt a day, drinks every single day, what treatment of bipolar disorder or depression or any other emotional issue are we talking about here? They're constantly, and I mean it with all my humorous approach to things, they're basically poisoning their brain every single day. So for somebody to get better from a mood disorder, let's talk only about depression. They need to stop drinking first because alcohol is a depressant. So TMS doesn't place on anybody any stricter demand than, let's say, for treatment with medications, right?
Right, like, I mean, you can technically drink on whatever medication, but you shouldn't.
No, you can drink on any medication. If you are taking benzodiazepines, so Xanax and the family, although it's not the first. The first one was Librium. So Librium, Valium, diazepam, clonazepam, alprazolam, that's how drug addicts come in asking for Xanax. So Xanax, right? Lorazepam, a bunch of other things. You cannot drink on them because you might develop seizures or die or get sedated. So it's already not a good idea. On antidepressants, for example, some people try to drink. But again, if they take bupropion, Wellbutrin, they might develop seizures right there. And I've seen cases like that. I mean, I haven't seen people having seizures in front of me, but I know of a number of cases when somebody comes to visit the family during Thanksgiving, like literally, right? They sit at the table, family don't know, right? They have no idea what's going on. And the person all of a sudden falls on the floor and has a grand mal seizure with, terrible seizing movements, stuff coming out of their mouth, like in the movie, because this person is on a high dose of Wellbutrin, had a lot to drink, got dehydrated, the threshold got down, and the seizure developed. Emergency room, everybody's scared, everybody's holiday is screwed up. And what happens to a person after one seizure? I have no idea. So I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying that TMS or ECT, they don't place any unusual demand. But I wanted people to be clear that while, as Master McMaster rightfully said, so one can choose to drink and do drugs while they're taking medications, unbeknown to anybody. Like, they don't feel anything, nobody knows about it. With TMS, they might really develop seizures, and depression is not going to get better anyway.
So I know a lot of people who, take like antidepressants or something, and they still drink.
Of course.
Like, it happens.
Right.
And that might be okay for someone who maybe only has like mild depression. But if you have like severe depression, chronic depression, to the point where maybe you're having like suicidal ideations, like, you probably don't want to feel that way anymore. And if you don't want to feel that way anymore, then you might try something like TMS. And if you really want to get the full benefit out of this, then you need to really go for it and change your lifestyle and do things like stop drinking and put drugs to the side and focus on getting well.
Easier said than done. In my experience, telling people something like that does absolutely nothing. They need to understand it. But what I'm saying is this. I don't have TMS at my office yet, right? So I'm not promoting it to get clientele in. Don't get me wrong. If you think that you can call my office right now and get TMS done, no. There are tons of places in New York City. Feel free to go there, and I encourage you to do it after you do your own, in big quotes, research, meaning read stuff on Google. Or maybe you use Yahoo, I don't know, it's up to you. Or Blink, right? So, but seriously speaking, because there is a direct exposure of your brain to electromagnetic impulses, the likelihood of developing something that you really don't want, like a seizure, of course is going to be increased Seizures are extremely unusual in TMS treatment, extremely.
Well, so what kinds of conditions is TMS supposed to be really good with treating?
So officially, depression. People report good results with PTSD. Some people actually report good results with bipolar disorder and anxiety disorders, autistic and Asperger's. And I read and heard on one of the podcasts that there is some success in treatment of drug addiction. I have no idea how real that is. I haven't read the studies. I can guarantee you there are not too many studies because TMS is not, research is not heavily funded. Because there is no benefit, there is a machine, right? You can sell an X number of machines, you can't sell them all the time.
So when you say that it's been shown to benefit things like mood disorders or autism.
Depression for sure, and that's what insurance is going to pay for, because FDA approved it in 2008 for the use of that. But off-label, as I said, in private sector, when you pay for the services, some people, and I would urge you to look for people who have expertise in doing that, they claim, and I would like to say it very, very strongly, claim that it's also helpful for the things that I named. And, parents who have autistic children would go for anything, and maybe some people get better. I'm not saying it's not helping, but I don't know whether it does or doesn't.
But so when you say that it's helpful, or
Right.
people have found it to be helpful,
Right.
what does that mean? Does that mean a full recovery?
It means that people say it is. As far as depression is concerned, we have numbers and statistics.
And what do those numbers say? Is that like a full recovery?
So the numbers are the numbers that are available. 68% success rate on the initial round of treatment, with 45% full recovery that lasts for a year. Why do I say for a year? Because studies that I'm aware of are year-long. So does it mean that depression will never come back? I don't know. In some people, the recovery might last for a very long time, but we need to understand that with any type of treatment for anything, short of surgery, the predisposition, meaning a tendency of a person to respond to a stress in a particular way, is going to remain there. This is a very important concept for people to understand, and I think I've said it many times, and I'm going to say it again and again. So, for example, if somebody has a tendency to have high blood pressure, when they are upset, very much upset, even on medication, their blood pressure is going to shoot up and they need an extra medication. Or let's say somebody used to have high blood pressure and was able to get rid of it by losing weight and eating certain, or I should say not eating certain things, and living like a monk, like literally, right? Once the stress happens and they start gaining weight, if that's what helped them, right? Or drinking, the blood pressure will go back up. Or somebody, let's say, has a duodenal ulcer, cured, doesn't exist anymore. Severe stress, or going to conditions where food is not as well controlled, it will come back. So what medications, antidepressants, for example, right, or TMS or anything else does, it improves the situation now, but then the person is still out there getting exposed to real life, right? So
there are still triggers.
Yeah, there are still triggers. So if the trigger happens, people are invited for, they call it in a very nice way, retreatment, right? That's how they speak
like
to
a
you.
booster?
Oh, yeah. So the booster usually lasts for 5 sessions. And how frequently you need it, I don't know. With ECT, I can tell you more experience. And I draw a parallel there because it's still electricity, right? And the mechanism is, if there is a clear mechanism, it's probably kind of the same, but I can't swear by it. So with ECT, we have years and years of experience. And usually what they do with ECT, and this is not a program about ECT, 10 to 12 sessions for a person to get, in quotes, cured, much better, right? Mm-hmm. And then they suggest a booster in a month, then another booster in probably 2. You do get the picture, right? So they kind of like wean you off. With TMS, there is a particular protocol. I guarantee you that different people use different protocols of retreatment. But if somebody is looking for a cure, meaning somebody does something with you, and then you don't have an issue anymore ever. No. TMS is not it.
Is anything it?
Probably for some people. I've seen cases when a person takes a few doses, the smallest doses of an antidepressant, and because they are slow metabolizers, we spoke about it, meaning liver doesn't clear it as fast, and they are super sensitive, things go away. And for the duration of me talking to them, they never come back. Does it mean that they didn't have a serious depression? Maybe. I don't know. Because
that's what I was going to say.
Right. But we don't know. There have been reports of cures of severe autistic disorder with high doses of vitamins. I'm not going to name them because people are going, have there been cases like that? Absolutely. Has there been a case when somebody had a single event of being hypnotized and got better? For sure. And I have in my practice people who swear by Prozac, have people who hate Prozac, would never take it because of side effects. Some people swear by other medications. Let's say, I just say Prozac because it's so generic, right? So anything can happen. But as a rule, TMS is very helpful. They claim it's 68% success rate, which is pretty good, better than placebo. And 45% retention. So for a year, continuous euthymia, meaning not depressed, not manic.
Right. So in what case would you recommend TMS? Does it depend on the person? If there's someone who's just tried a bunch of different antidepressants and nothing's worked, then would you recommend it? Would you ever recommend it as a first course of treatment?
So let's talk about it on a very simple logical level. First of all, let's talk about the issue of side effects. So if we made two columns, in one of which would be antidepressants as a group, and in the other one is TMS. Antidepressants have listed hundreds of side effects.
Right.
And in real life, people experience more than 10. I mean, not everyone. I have tons of patients who have no side effects on medications at all. But common side effects, let's say on Prozac and the family. Sexual side effects, feeling indifferent in general. Some people frequently report some digestive issues. Funny enough, and it's not funny at all, super modern antidepressants frequently cause nausea. We don't understand why.
What's a super modern antidepressant?
I don't want to name them because then it's going to be promoting them. But a large group of antidepressants. Even with genetic testing, when the medication comes as very likely not to cause any issues, sometimes people still develop side effects. So TMS, the only side effect that is listed continuously is a headache. And they say slight headache. I've seen, because we used to do it with old equipment when I ran the Department of Neuropsychiatry, with the old equipment, when you needed to have not only a coil, but also have a direct contact with the head. People do develop headaches sometimes, and they can be mild, they can be not mild, but they go away pretty quickly. So significantly less side effects. On the side of voting for taking an antidepressant, you're kind of more independent of the treatment. Yes, you have to take a pill, maybe twice a day, right? But almost everybody takes something, like supplements.
It's not as much of a time commitment?
Yeah, there is no time commitment whatsoever. And as you said, your lifestyle, at least people feel, can be significantly freer. Here you are dependent. You have to come to the office. You have to do it. It's not your choice, right? Either you do it 5 times a week for 6 weeks, or it's not going to work. And do people get better sooner than 6 weeks? Yes, but for the effect to last, experience shows, you still need 30 procedures, and then you need up to 6 more to wean you off gradually. So your level of dependence is higher. Should it be a treatment of choice, like first treatment? I don't know. It's a person's individual decision. If they pay out of pocket and they make such a decision, I don't know that somebody is going to say no to them, because nobody said to us that it's forbidden. It's just insurances are not going to pay, right? I want to make it clear. Unless there is, depending on the insurance, 1, 2, or even 3 trials of antidepressants that failed.
Right, so you have to prove treatment resistance.
Right, in order for your insurance to pay. But insurances are kind of weird, and I'm not here to pick up fight with insurances, but they make up their own rules as they go.
Right.
And I don't want to get into it. So I personally feel it's anybody's decision. I met people in my life who decided that they want to have a CT done to get over with all these things once and forever, and had very good results, right? I know people who are not only afraid of ECT or TMS, they're afraid to take a pill. And I know people, and you know them too, who look down on supplements, right? Don't think they're effective, think that everything is total BS except for medication. I mean, it's an individual choice. So what I'm saying is that TMS is available, not in my office at this time, but it's available. I've seen very good results when I used it in the department which I ran, with experienced technicians. People were very happy. Was everybody cured? No.
So, aside from the conditions that TMS can improve,
Right.
or perhaps even cure,
Right.
what kinds of mental health issues would you not recommend for TMS?
Schizophrenia.
Okay.
Right. I would be very hesitant myself, with my lack of experience, to recommend treatment of bipolar disorder. By the way, I have to tell you, and I think I've said it before, most of the providers are going to encourage you to continue to take medication, and then it's between you and them how to manage the medication. I can tell you that in my practice, I had a few people who disappeared from my practice for, let's say, 2 months, and then came back to report that they had TMS done in another place because I don't have it.
Okay.
Unbeknown to me, right, which is totally fine by me. And it didn't work. So, and they came back to see me to figure out what else can be done.
Right.
Right? Because here we do medication, we also do, at least we are equipped to do, and we do neurobiofeedback, and we are about to start doing TMS, but not tomorrow and not the day after tomorrow. We need to take our time to figure out what equipment to buy. So it's an option. It's a very popular option. That's why we are talking about it, because a lot of people go for it. I met people who treated mood disorders with TMS since the very beginning, since 2008. Doctors, they're very happy. They say that it's actually amazing how well it works. Like, I've heard, yesterday I had a conversation because I'm doing my research, I'm meeting with people to see what equipment to buy. And one of the doctors told me, look, I personally didn't believe that it's going to work as well as they tell me, but it's actually quite amazing. I mean, people are very happy, but not everyone.
Yeah.
And I would encourage, if we have any listeners who do actively use and drink quite a bit, stopping it in a supervised, supportive place is probably a very good first step, and might be the only step you need not to feel depressed. It might be.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. It might be. So I think we discussed almost everything about TMS and named all the names.
Yeah, I think we got through
Including
most
Tesla
of the names.
himself, Nicholas. Right.
Yeah, I guess the biggest takeaway from this for me has been, when I think TMS, I should not think of the scene from American Horror Story when Sarah Paulson is getting electroshock
Right.
therapy,
No.
and I shouldn't think of the scene from Requiem for a Dream when the mom is like getting electrocuted and going all nuts. Very different thing. Very different.
Yes. So, as always, I suggest to you the brains of the internet and not of the internet. Keep your brains open and come back to listen to us. And we are signing off. My name is Dr. Schultz.
My name is Master McMaster.
Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Hey everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brainstorm 9000. If you like us, love us, or marginally tolerate us, hey, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever the hell you listen to your podcasts.